Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Coffee Morning, the virtual coffee morning hosted by Kildare Local Enterprise Office. Before we start off, we've got a wonderful speaker today, Deirdre Lane from Shamrock Spring, so can't wait to talk with her. But before we talk with Deirdre, I'm just going to pass you over to John Mulcahy from the Local Enterprise Office here in Kildare, who'd just like to say a few words.
Thanks, Michael. Welcome everybody to this week. Hope you had a nice weekend and a good start to the week. We're very excited to have Deirdre Lane from Shamrock Spring as guest speaker today. There's a lot of useful information to be taken from this week, and I hope that you do find you do find good insight from today as well, particularly in the areas of green. And looking at things like resource efficiency and cost savings as well. There's definitely a lot to be learned from that area. So in terms of today, Michael is going to be taking through the questions with Deirdre. But from the Local Enterprise Office, just to be aware that we do offer supports, particularly in the areas of Green for Micro. We do have a number of different green programs coming up starting on May 11th. You can find them on our website. I'll share them in the chat on this as well, so you have them. But we do have a number of different programs coming up. In particular, we have a Green for Retail with Deirdre on May 11th. So just to flag that with everybody so people are aware. Yeah, that's all for me today. I hope that you do, as I said, find today useful, and we'll also obviously get to network later on as well at this session. So Michael, if you want to take through the questions.
Brilliant. I was just going to mention there actually that we're going to talk for about half an hour with Deirdre as per usual, and then we'll break out into breakout rooms for some networking. So let's just start off by introducing Deirdre. Morning, Deirdre. How are you this morning?
Nice and sunny here in Newbridge. I'm very overjoyed to be in the room. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I'm loving it as well. What a beautiful weekend we had. Now, just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and how you got to be the person that you are and so on. So maybe just a little bit about your background.
Certainly. So I'm mixed race. My dad's from County Limerick and my mother's from County Louth. So they actually got together in a hospital. My mother was a nurse and my dad was a guard, and all the nurses fancied him in the corridor. She had no clue what he was saying with his Limerick accent. So I grew up with this yin yang of correctness and justice and kindness. So a lot of people might know my mother in terms of she had an employment agency here, and she's very social and she's very active in the community. So as a Leo, I became a Cub Scout leader, a choir leader, a young Christian student leader, and I took Amway into our school at the time, for example. I was like, this doesn't make sense. The school can save money if you get Amway. So I was one of those kids in the background going, can we do something different? Can we try this? I was that person going, what if? So essentially, when I did my leaving cert in 1980, everybody was walking the streets of Dublin, London with degrees and no jobs. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to UCD, accepted to UCD. I want to do the NIHE languages with business studies, but you needed like 12 A's, and I didn't have 12 A's because I was babysitting my sister and helping out all this community stuff. So I started in Carlow IT, and then I rang Kevin Street every single day till they accepted me to do the languages and business degree. So it was a fascinating degree. So we were in a technology college, so all our lunch breaks were with engineers, and they were telling us what they were doing, and it was a very practical, very compressed degree. So then I spent my first summer in Germany as an au pair Mädchen to improve my German, and the second summer I spent in McDonald's living in a tent in Germany. So at the end of the season, when the apples were falling on my tent, I thought, maybe it's time to go home. So I completed my studies then in France that year, and again it was applied marketing. So you had to go in business suits every day, and you had to convince 3 Irish companies that you will do their marketing for them for free for a whole year. So what actually happened was I had to unpack my tent by candlelight, leg it back to Ireland. I convinced 2 companies only to give me their marketing to do for free, including Irish Ribs. And they were so jettisoned to give that young lady permission to work for them for free that recently I came across a note permissioning me, and they typexed out the initials to say, yes, you can do a bit of marketing for us for free. So ever since, I'm that person in the room that makes things happen. So the French degree was very practical, and I had the biggest ideas. So Bourdisco Wara at the time in Paris didn't pay us, of course, we were students, but we were given the opportunity to do their global marketing for them in Paris. So I was standing in Auchan in Paris, surrounded by smoked salmon. We had our questionnaires ready because it was an applied degree. And this tiny little redhead stood there watching me. And I thought, she doesn't go soon, I will call security. That redhead is now president of the global peasant farmer movement across the world.
Wow. Wow.
She's from Waterford. She is amazing, and we're still in touch. So Judith basically rang me. So I got a job with AIB in Treasury. She rang me to say, do you want to double your salary and move to Paris? It's like, hell yes. I hadn't hung up and I was already packing my bags to go off to Citibank Paris. And Citibank Paris, they threw me in the investigations part. So it's like, everything's gone wrong, solve it. It's like, sorry, what's a bank? You know, I'm the kind of person that resolves stuff. So for example, Citibank Milan, when they were about to lose their banking license, they threw me over to make sure that they could continue their cash management operations. So Citibank was amazing. Citibank gives you great opportunities. So if you come up with an idea going, can we do this? It's like, do it. You know, so you get to resolve the situation. You get to think about new solutions and implement them. And if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. So you'd be up all night making something with your colleagues. Then in the morning, an American colleague would come in to say, oh no, we're not going to do this, or we don't need this. So essentially my career in banking was always futuristic thinking. How can I optimize this? How can I make change? How can I make it fairer? Due diligence, risk, optimization of things as well. And I'm a very basic person. So I always choose commodities because I could see them. If I could see them, I can sell them, I can smell them, I can trust them, because it has to be in a warehouse somewhere or in a ship or somewhere. Where is it and how can I make this work? So very much one of my jobs was to run the New York Mercantile Exchange for Europe, Middle East and Africa. So that was fascinating. So I found myself in New York learning the new technology on the trading floor. And the guy teaching us, he was pure speed. He was one of those little New York Jewish guys, And how he phrased his conversation was, I've got ADHD, I'm bipolar, deal with it. And it was just like, wow, isn't that refreshing? That in the workplace, everybody is accomplished with all their strengths and all their gifts that they do bring to a different trading arena. So trading floors are full of big blokes, and you have to be a big bloke and shouting a lot because you need to be heard. So the market evolved over years, as did I. And I was always testing the system and getting the best consultant in the room to go, this would be better. This will get people home. This will resolve all those issues. And I still am today. So when I came to the last exchange I set up was the electricity trading exchange and carbon trading exchange. So I knew the barrel, I knew how to trade every single section of it. What I didn't understand was electricity. We use it every day, 24/7. How does it work? And how can I lower the bills in Ireland for my mother and everybody else so we have a fair system? So we then set up the UK Power Exchange. So we were very fortunate. We used all the Scandinavian power trading methods and methodologies and keys and risk management and IT systems. So at the time, again, it was a big mix, a fascinating conversation. NASDAQ wanted to get into the commodity world. So they bought our trading platforms, OMX in Sweden. They bought all our power markets and they wanted to run the UK market as well. So we just won the bid there. And it was my job again to get everyone in the room and keep them all happy. So the regulators, the IT, the bankers, the buy side, the sell side, and I love that. And I'm still doing it today. So when I came home and I looked around, it was like, oh, nothing is green here. Where is all this waste coming from? You know, why are we not doing more? And my brother sent me an Avaz email to go, Deirdre, there's a people's climate picnic coming up. It's like a picnic. How's that going to resolve anything? Because sometimes you get so mad, look at all this waste, no one's doing anything. So I went up to the People's Climate March picnic in Ireland, and it was fascinating. So we met amazing change makers that gently were protesting in their own way, looking for a change. And as part of that, one of the things that we did manage to do is, with my investor hat on and divestment hat on, I spent a lot of time with the students in Trinity until Trinity College divested. But before Trinity divested, Kildare divested. So Maynooth University in Ireland was the very first university to divest.
When you say divest, just explore and explain what that means, just
Sure.
for the rest of us.
If you're investing in anything, you're going to buy a pen.
Mm-hmm.
You're exchanging money, you're investing. you're buying stuff. But if you choose, like those brave women did in Dunnes Stores, not to touch anything from South Africa, you're choosing not to invest, not to buy or sell anything from there, you're divesting, you're taking your money out and you're placing it somewhere else that is cleaner and fairer and juster. So in the case of Ireland and the apartheid system, we actually changed the legislation there. We changed how the world thought. So Ireland is magnificent in tiny ways to make change happen, like the plastic bag tax, like the smoking tax. So the Avaz event spurned the People's Climate Movement. Ireland's the first country in the world to divest from fossil fuels. And we're so lucky because if you look at your own investment, if you actually read the pension statement, or if you read your own bank statement, we're getting not very much in terms of interest, but where is your actual money? So you've worked all your life to get your money. Who's got your money? How are you spending your money? So part of the Lean Green program is very much about who was Captain Boycott. Does anyone know who Captain Boycott was?
I just read about him, believe it or not, bizarrely, I just read about him yesterday, the day before. You tell us, because it's your show, you're here to talk to us about him. So, but bizarrely, I read about him on a Facebook post just yesterday by sheer fluke.
Excellent. Captain Boycott, Breda Reid knows who he was, but he was in the west of Ireland and he was very dastardly. And the locals said, well, listen, we need your money, but we're not going to serve you. No more bread, no more eggs, no more service. And eventually he had to move away. So it's another way of changing society is with your pound, with your dollar, with your euro. How can I spend differently? How can I make sure that the maker of my jeans, my trousers is justly paid for? So we just had a fashion revolution week last week, all month. In fact, you can go to fashionrevolution.org. Who's actually made your clothes? Who grew your clothes? So one of the conversations I was part of with a legal firm in France is the cotton industry. For example, the cotton picking little fingers. Super, get the kids into the fields to pick the cotton. The kids weren't going to school. So the lawyers stepped in to say, listen, lads, you have to send kids to school. Number one, educate your people, educate the women. You'll have a different marketplace going forward. So we traced all the cotton market back to the shops. So in good faith, you're going to go into H&M and you're going to see the sticker there that says, woo, better cotton initiative. And you as a consumer are going to pay better, but it may not be any better at all. So it's very much as buyers of anything, who made my clothes? Who's getting the money? How can we buy different, design different, think circular economy thoughts? So instead of digging it, using it, chucking it, how can we think circular? How can we start a new business, for example, and fail earlier on the drawing board? Instead of creating waste material, ordering the wrong stuff, how can we really come to terms with the thinking that Ellen MacArthur actually started? So when Ellen was on her boat crossing the world, she had to think, how am I going to stick everything into one little boat and not kill myself having to row myself at the same time? So just like yourself, if you're going for a hike, what do you need to bring with you? You know, what's going to keep you alive? What do you really, really need? So with this lockdown, we're starting to think a different way of thinking. Do I need all this stuff? Who made my stuff? Am I buying microplastic stuff? Has anybody seen Seaspiracy recently? So it's a new movie on Netflix about fish, and it's just like, oh my God, all that rubbish in the sea. So basically what we have to rethink all our thinking and all our purchases, especially after Brexit. How can we make stuff here? What could I buy here? What business can I start here? What business can I support here that's going to keep money in our local economy? So one of the things I did was myself and another ex-banker home from overseas, we set up a cottage market in Newbridge, building 30 micro businesses and bringing them all to play and trade here in the town. And very selfishly, I love my food. So I want to make sure that there's food here that I can taste and eat and enjoy, and it's local and it's traceable and less pesticides, and it actually tastes of something. Because it's one thing to have all this food that we have. So is anyone familiar with the fifth quarter economy?
No, I'm not. I've never heard of that one. I've heard of lots of different things, but fifth quarter now is a new one to me.
Yeah. So for example, you've just grown a pig or a cow or a sheep and you bring it to the slaughterhouse. The farmer is lucky to get 50% of the cost of that animal. And the processing plant gets all the rest. But what about all the rest? So the other day I bought some, I'm looking for it here, I bought some gravy. So it turned out the lamb gravy, it's more expensive than the vegetable gravy. How does that happen? So we have all this animal waste in this country. The fifth quarter is how to maximize the rest of it. So the leather, the bones, the gelatin, everything else that comes with the animal, including the manure from the animals. So it's something that we have to consider for ourselves. We are an agricultural country. Can we grow our own spuds and onions and carrots? Why are we importing onions? You know, we have the land here. If you think of the carbon price on the planet of shipping stuff over from China. So you go to your butcher and you get Chinese chicken. It's like, what? What's the cost of the farmer who made the chicken? What's the cost of the injections that were stuck in the chicken that you're going to ingest now versus a big chicken down the country for a bigger price? So basically, that's part of my story and part of why we're here today. And I'm very much looking forward to the questions afterwards.
So with regard to that, what can we do? Just whatever about on the micro enterprise level, we're going to pivot towards that in just a minute, but just on a day-to-day as responsible citizens perspective, how could we make sure that we're buying appropriate clothes, buying appropriate food and feeding into the circular economy rather than the fast fashion, if you like, economy?
So for example, this dress is a people tree dress. So check your labels. Can your clothes biodegrade at the end of life? Can you buy your stuff secondhand? There's any amount of amazing vintage shops around here with really good quality, with no microplastics in your clothes. Because what happens actually when you put your fleece on, you're actually ingesting parts of plastic. And your body isn't made to process plastic in the body. So it gets stuck in bits of your body that it shouldn't be in, for starters. And then when it leaves your body, it gets spread onto the fields. Now we have plastics in the fields. So what can we do? The first thing, I'm going to go to bed with you all. How about that? So when you wake up in the morning, you've just spent how many hours sleeping on microplastics?
So, but in a more practical perspective, when we do say go out to buy a jumper, a fleece, or whatever it might be, a piece of clothing or garment, how can we make sure that we're buying, if you like, a better garment, an environmentally better garment?
The first thing, always read the label, always ask questions. If you're a buyer yourself, ask the producer, where is my stuff coming from? And really scratch the label. So for example, if you're growing clothes, if you're making your own clothes yourself, you have to consider what was the soil like that the clothes have actually grown in. Could you have made it yourself? Could you have knitted it yourself? Could it be reused wool, for example? Can it be local wool? Can it be Irish wool? Can it be Irish? Is it even Irish made? So for example, do berries of Ireland? Really?
Well, a lot of Spanish stuff goes into them, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, yeah. So it's up to us as consumers to open our eyes and ask, really, who made my clothes? Is that a local job we could be doing here? Can we start making the business here? So who made my sheets? Even take off your clothes tonight and think, who actually made my clothes? You know, is there a label on it? You know, and who made my food? So you put a bowl of cereal in and you've got a bowl of all these E numbers. What even is that? Why am I eating stuff that I don't know who made the ingredients? I had a conversation the other day with the president of Fairphone, and I have a presentation here I'll send on to you afterwards. But they're trying to make phones fairer, like we all need phones. The components from all around the globe to make your phone, it's just incredible, the journey that they all took and all the making and all the disassembling of it. So as part of circular economy thinking, it's design thinking. How can we design out waste from day one? How can we reuse every component of the thing at the end? And as purchasers, to answer your question, ask, how can I buy local? Can I go to a local cafe? Is that bread local? And above all, for example, go into your international shops and on your back street, your Polish shops and things. They have seasonal food. They have fresh plums and apples and it's zero waste. And if you bring your shopping bags in with you as well, it's eliminating plastic at every stop.
Yeah.
So it's just the choice of how you spend your pound and where you spend your pound. Who are you giving your money to?
Well, on that, I just, from a selfish perspective, my son's, one of his friends grows up and lives on a farm. His family are farmers, and the lamb you get from that farm is nicer than any other lamb you're ever going to eat anywhere. It's just on a different level.
So as Kildare people, there's actually one thing we can do with our lamb. We're blessed. You know, we're in a county that's probably not going to flood because we're not near a coast. We have the bogs, we have the fens, we have the Curragh. can we have like a champagne label for Kildare? Can we have the Curra lamb as a label? You know, like camembert and all these other things. Can we actually protect the assets that we have here as Kildare to make them something of value? So that the lamb that you eat is outside reared, eaten grass in the sunshine, and it's had a happy life. Rather than, you know, if you look at the climate change in Australia at the moment, their sheep are dying in the heat.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we have a very strange future ahead of us in terms of globalization and trade. So if you look at the Suez Canal incident that we had very recently, there was so much merchandise behind that one boat that we have to think, why are we shipping in all this stuff? Why can't we all buy stuff here? Or like pre-loved clothes, somebody has just shared there. Absolutely, you get the best, most original things. Pick up a needle yourself, and the best thing that you have is the one you already possess. And swap with your friends. You're going to a wedding, look around at your best friend's dress and say, can I borrow it? You know, how can you customize the stuff that we have already? Also in Kildare, we have AES waste. So we have a perfect situation to have a pilot green town here in Kildare. So I know Maynooth has just been signed off as a decarbonisation zone. Fantastic. So how can each town specialise in what we actually do? So can we have a craft cluster in Bellytour? You know, we have all the Quaker Village experience then. People want experiential tourism. Let's make Kildare a place that we can come to visit and really enjoy what's happening here. Reskill ourselves. So for example, the month of June, we have all the yarn bombing in Newbridge for the month. Can we have people knitting clothes around the area as well and sharing the experience of how we have a bioregional economy that's resilient, that's made with local traceable clothes and wool, for example.
Well, on that, and talking about the local economy, we're all entrepreneurs here, and that's why we're assembled for this coffee morning. Tell us a little bit about what is Lean Green and how we can, as small to medium-sized businesses, embrace that concept and make it part of how we run our businesses.
So one thing I do and love doing is networking people. So have a conversation with Leo about what you really want, and let's optimize the resources we have hyper locally. Because one thing I discovered, for example, working in the global sugar markets in Dubai, if you have, in that case, it was just chocolates I needed to reorder for the next day. I'd ordered really bespoke Lebanese chocolates with our branding on it. And because I knew the person, overnight, I could have them remade as well. So you're not waiting for delivery of that part that you need in your production. For example, there's a beautiful cream that I get from my face. I can't get it anymore because the oil with Brexit, the company won't ship to Ireland. The shelves in Ireland are empty. The shelves in Northern Ireland are even more empty. We have a perfect market in Northern Ireland to sell locally in terms of lower carbon, lower footprint, and very much optimize our products for the Northern Irish market, because people are not shipping there anymore. They're not even flying the stuff into Northern Ireland. So post-Brexit, how can we consider things like good news? The English shop in Brussels, for example, they can't get the stuff anymore. So it's now the Irish shop in Brussels. So they're using Tato and they're importing Irish cheeses and Irish stuff because it's so difficult now to deal with Britain. And we speak English. So as entrepreneurs, how can we make stuff and brand our heritage and brand it as trustworthy and accountable and locally made? Because the good news is sustainably made products have an increase in price value of 18% automatically. So if you take the Irish market, there's 600,000 high net worth individuals in Ireland. So they automatically, well, almost automatically will want to pay that 18% premium. So on your label, to answer your question, as you choose, if you say exactly how locally it's made, exactly where the stuff comes from, and states that you're supporting a bioeconomy, that's a big win. I'll buy your stuff.
So made in Newbridge is a more compelling argument than made in Ireland. Is that what you're saying?
Hyper localize the product, yeah. If it's a Galway sheep, say this is an actual Galway sheep actually grown outdoors in Galway. So this is Kildare beer, actually grown from barley here. This is porridge from Kildare. These are stuff that people in Kildare, heritage craft people, have made. And there's a massive market overseas as well in our diaspora youth, because the grannies aren't going anywhere. There's grannies cash rich up and down the country because unfortunately, we're not going nowhere, like Newbridge or nowhere ourselves. So think about optimizing the senior market in terms of the purchasing power of the grey pound.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic. So in practical steps for really hyper-localizing would be a really positive way, quite apart from the carbon footprint of transporting goods around the country or around the world, you will get the benefit of being part of the local community, and people get the feel-good factor of buying from someone who they might know from the street, walking down the street and so on.
Yeah, and then you've got traceability and reliability. And how this works really well is in County Cork, because they all know each other, you know. So if you put your hand up to say, I'm going to make this garment for you, and you ship it in from Lithuania and you put a badge on it, they'll go, no, you didn't. And you will be called out. So in terms of greenwashing, we have a perfect place of having a lily white washing here to make sure that we actually of ultimate traceability, because we have the worker space. We have Board Namona just transition 108 million that says let's retrain the people in the area, in the Midlands, and make the best of the resources we have, which is water. The Curragh Aquifer, we're sitting on the best water in Ireland in some ways. Are we maximizing that? Why did the garrison choose that area? Because of the water, proximity to the Liffey. You know, we're in a very strong position to hyper-localize what we're doing. And the best thing is we have so many international people living in our area with different ideas. The number one business that fails is the same mindset. So you get 7 blokes that all went to college together doing the one thing. Guess what? That's not going to work, because you need extra ideas in there. You need softer ideas, you need diversity, you need inclusion in those ideas to make it really a fertile landscape, and have alternative thinking into the process as well.
Brilliant. By the way, just if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask Deirdre, just feel free to pop them into the chat there. As per usual, Deirdre's here to answer your questions as much as tell us about her wonderful ideas and so on. So a couple of years ago, you put in a submission to the National Planning Framework, and you did a more local one for the Kildare area. You might just tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so we have a vision for Newbridge.
Cool.
For example, we had a county development plan, and some of us in the Kildare Environmental Network joined us on Facebook. We put together 18 pages of how a future-proof, climate-proof Kildare can be, using resources that we have, energy that we have. So for example, if we just take Newbridge, Main Street, Newbridge, we already have Whitewater, the biggest shopping centre outside of Dublin. So we already have so many ways that we can hyper-localize our electricity supply here. So everybody, we all have rooftops. Why don't we have solar panels on them? In Newbridge, we have a nest of all those schools. The schools aren't even there in the summer. The sun is shining out there now, so we all could have much less electricity bills. So the carbon intensity, one quick fact, the carbon intensity of the electricity you're using, the more expensive the electricity, the higher the carbon in it as well. So the blacker the power, black oil, black turf, black, etc., the higher the carbon. So if we use free electricity sources like hydro, like solar, that's natural, lessens our carbon footprint and our bill. So we have to start thinking, look to Carbon Watch on Twitter and see what they're doing there. So we know that carbon is linked to these disasters. The Curragh was on fire yesterday. You know, it's April, we're going around in t-shirts. Climate change is real and it's here. And how can we do things like saving our own water? So to answer one of your questions, one thing I'd like you all to go home and start doing is in the morning to save about 9 litres of water per head of the family. Start doing what Madonna and Stephen Fry do, start peeing in the shower. So you're saving loads of water. You're giving yourself a free health test as well, because you see, oh gosh, have I enough water in my system, especially with the heat factors that we're going to see. And if we remember the climate change situation with all those European people dying not so long ago, we're going to have to start building buildings differently. So the housing stock we already have is the stuff we have to keep. And to hyper reduce our carbon imprint, we're going to have to retrofit those buildings in a meaningful way. So the government have committed to 500,000 retrofitted houses. 16% of all those buildings are older than 1940s. Perfect for wool insulation because it's breathable and moldable, and it can be artistically made as well. So your insulation, anybody who lives by a road can tell me about the traffic noise of the road. Can you imagine if your house was insulated with wool that cushioned the sound of the traffic out? Because what people are finding now, if you've got noise sensory at nighttime, it's keeping you awake and it's contributing to the obesity as well. So if your wool installation can be an art installation with the branding of the company as well, we're not going to have a Grenfell's. So we have Kingspan wrapping our houses with plastic. Who even thinks that's a good idea? You know, we're building up. I'm inviting everyone to fail fast quickly. So on the drawing board, do I want to wrap my house in plastic? Yes, no. You know, is this a good idea for today? Yes, but long term, is it a good idea? Midterm, is it a good idea? Who can I trust in this space? Can we set up a union of plumbers in the area that are trustworthy, that will actually do the job and turn up on time? Imagine a work person turning up on time to do the job. So we've had an opportunity in a whole year of thinking of different ways of building trust in our tradespeople, in our staff, and giving people meaningful jobs. So at one point I was at it was an activist event, a global activist event in the Netherlands, and all the upstairs of their equivalent of the Whitewater was full of remade stuff. And it was beautiful stuff. It took me a minute to figure out it was all reconditioned things. And the lady in the shop got super cross with me and she went, "We have so much rubbish, we have to do something with it." It's like
the typical Dutch way.
Typical, but that's how we're going to have to start to think. How can we reuse all the stuff that somebody else has gone down the mine and got dirty to do? How can we reuse the metals and salvage stuff here to make a second and third economy of things? So circularize everything in a closed loop. Modularize the bits that you have to have manufactured. So Borden and Mona here, for example, have all that space for Trainers Hub. They can be 3D printing, designing crafts prisons, reusing all the stuff that they have as waste material in AES already, and reskilling the entire economy. So we have the tools here as part of the county development plan. Let's do it.
Brilliant. On that positive note, time has got the better of us. So I'm afraid, thank you so much. I didn't say I'm afraid, thank you. Thank you so much, Deirdre, for that very enlightening and very inspiring few minutes there. So there we go, John. Another week, another 2 networking sessions, a wonderful chat from Deirdre. And would you just like to say a few words to finish off today's wonderful event?
Yeah, spot on. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. That was an excellent session today. I really enjoyed that, and the networking was excellent as well. I suppose from the local enterprise office and you know, from ourselves, just to be aware that, you know, we are here to support small to medium enterprise in any way possible, whether it's you know, a direct support from the LEO or whether it's signposting it to another government agency. Do feel free to get in contact with us following on from today. If you are in need of any supports, particularly in the areas of the green initiatives. I posted up the different green supports that we have coming up. So just to be aware of that, and you can sign up on the link that I've sent if you are interested in any of those areas. But do feel free to get in contact with us in regards to any other supports as well. In particular, if you're looking at things like trading online vouchers, we you know, there is support from that perspective. If you're looking to trade online, or if you're looking for a second trading online voucher, we do have sessions coming up for a second trading online voucher. That support is there as well, just to be aware of that. In terms of today's session, as said, I really enjoyed that. I hope that you found it insightful. I'd like to say a very special thanks to Deirdre. It was an excellent session, and a lot to be learned and a lot to take in as well. Thank you as always, Michael. It's been excellent, and I learned a lot myself. So I hope that everyone else feels the same way. And we'll speak to you at the next session.